Welcome to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan. Laura helps individuals and families navigate estate planning with care, ensuring that their wishes are honored and their loved ones are protected. She simplifies the process, helping clients make key decisions today to avoid pain and conflict in the future. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is Building Your Dream Team: Why Aligning Staff with Your Lifestyle Matters. Laura, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we've talked about this before, and this isn't a secret, but building a law practice requires the right team. So what are the key qualities that you look for when hiring staff for a law practice, especially one that's focused on the balanced lifestyle that you're talking about in your program?
Yeah, so this is a real challenge that we're facing these days as business owners, finding good people. I suppose it was always a challenge, but I feel like it's even more of a challenge now that we're all virtual.
It's certainly talked about a lot more, I feel like.
It is, yeah. Yes. And it's hard. Oh my gosh, it is hard finding good people. The experience that I've had with hiring virtually, you really need to find someone that is a self-starter and like a go-getter, someone that you know is going to get the job done, even if they're not sitting right next to you at the office. So, I would focus on that, and also someone who's willing to sort of learn, to take the ball and run with it. Those are the things that I think are key these days. Now, it's not easy to find, right? It's not easy to find, but once you do find that, then the idea is to treat that person really, really well and compensate them fairly and all of that, because finding good people is not easy.
Yeah, and I think there's a shift there. There has to be a shift there too, because too often, people don't do the compensating fairly and treating them well, and then they lose them, and then they're back to the drawing board. They have to start over again.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you're going to know pretty early on, is this person going to be a good fit? Yes or no? And I think that the expression is take a long time to hire to find the right person, but be a little bit quicker to let the wrong person go. That's another nugget that I would give. It's hard letting people go, but in the interest of your business, you deserve to have a team that's really supporting you and not making your life harder instead of easier.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see lawyers make when hiring staff?
Hiring is tricky these days. And I think knowing how to delegate is the other thing that I would say. I think I'm a little bit more knowledgeable about this because I used to be an assistant before I went to law school. And so I was really aware of the guy that I worked for and what was on his plate, and then what he passed down onto my plate. And so I really had a model for, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what the person who's in charge is supposed to do. And this is how they're supposed to delegate. And I think that most lawyers, they just don't have any training in that whatsoever. How do you manage even just a team of 2 or 3? What do you do? What do you pass down? What do you worry about versus what should you not be worrying about? This is the difference between a law firm that does well and a law firm that goes out of business. A lot of it is just managing your team, managing the right people in the right way.
How can people, avoid making bad decisions that would keep them from building a strong, sustainable team?
Giving people some test projects, not necessarily hiring them on right away full time for everything. People are more specialized today. You might have one person who's really good at social media, and someone else who's good at graphic design, and someone else who's going to be really good at customer care. So hiring for specific tasks based on what people are really, really focused on and really good at, making it clear what their job is, making it clear, how everything is supposed to work, having really good SOPs in place, and then just being willing to let someone go if it's not working is what I would say.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's tough because I've done a lot of hiring in my day, and I didn't get them all right. And sometimes you just have to I think it's you don't want to start over. You don't want to be wrong necessarily. So you might keep somebody on staff longer than you really should based on factors that you probably shouldn't be considering.
Definitely. It's hard. It's hard letting people go. And I've had to do it myself, but the result is then you get the right person in the job. Right. And then you see your business just explode the way it's supposed to, but you don't know that. It's so much of this is just iteration. You try something, it doesn't work, you have to try again. This is being a business owner. There's none of this is set in stone. Everything is changing. So that's the advice I would give would be, hire slowly, fire quickly. And if you find someone who's good, then treat them well.
Keep them around. How important is it to hire staff who are aligned with your personal values, especially in terms of lifestyle and work flexibility, because there's a lot of very, talented, qualified people that might have a different approach to things. How important is it to make sure that they're sort of aligned with you in those ways?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want someone who understands your business, who understands your practice and what you're trying to achieve with your clients. So that kind of alignment is important. I think having an assistant or having a team that are also somewhat entrepreneurial in nature. I don't know how you scan for this or how you find it, but I think having an assistant or team members who they know what you're trying to do, they know what you're trying to build, and they see how they're going to be a part of that and how maybe being a part of that could really work out well for them, especially if you're compensating them based on, tasks, done or clients brought in or however that works. But an entrepreneurial assistant or paralegal is going to see the opportunity and they're going to be excited about that. And the wrong person is not going to see the opportunity and they're not going to be excited about it. So I don't know how you search for that, but you'll be able to see this person is going to take the ball and run with it, even if what they're starting with is a pretty small project. And this person probably isn't. And
obviously, we all want to hire the perfect person, but that's not always easy. Do you prioritize one thing over the other, like experience, culture fit, specific skills? Do you prioritize any of those, or do you kind of look for like the whole package?
It's funny, the things that used to matter that don't really seem to matter as much anymore. I mean, I'm old enough now that I remember, the paper resumes and what school did you go to, and all the GPA and all these things that don't really seem to matter anymore.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. That's funny. I can't imagine actually caring about that.
Isn't that the irony is that it doesn't even seem to matter anymore. I've got a really great assistant now who I'm clinging on to for dear life because she's such a great assistant. I have no idea what her grades were and I couldn't care less. You want someone who's a go-getter, who's smart enough to know if I don't know something or understand it, I'm going to go figure it out.
Yep.
You don't have to know everything, but you do have to be willing to say, I don't understand this. I'm going to go figure it out. Someone who takes accountability. And then someone who's excited about building this vision that I have as I am. So you've got a vision for your law firm. You need people on your team that support that. At a minimum, not sabotaging it.
Yeah, you hit on two very important points, in my opinion. That is, if you don't know the answer, don't be ashamed to admit that and figure out what it is, and accountability. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Everybody does, but you gotta own up to it.
You have to own up to it. And I remember one of the nicest things one of my old bosses said to me many, many years ago was, you do sometimes make mistakes, but you never make them twice. And I thought that was about the best compliment I could have gotten.
I think so too. That's really good. That shows that you have the ability to go, okay, why did this go wrong? And what can I do to make sure that it doesn't happen again?
Right.
Yeah, I like that. What role does delegation play in your approach to creating a 2-hour lifestyle lawyer practice? We've talked about this a little bit, but how do you see delegation?
Yeah, delegating it is so important. What was it one of my lawyer friends said to me? She never touches anything first. Like everything that comes in, someone else gets a first stab at it, And I think the example she gave was she was hosting a podcast or something, and they asked for her attorney bio, and that's the sort of thing that your assistant should be able to pull together your attorney bio, at least the first draft of it. Now, maybe they send it over and you make a couple of tweaks, but I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. Everything that comes in, who can take a first stab at this? Maybe they spend a couple of hours on it and then I just spend 5-10 minutes reviewing it. But what I think is going to happen is once you start even bringing someone in for maybe just 5 or 10 hours a week, and you see how much they can accomplish in that 5 or 10 hours a week and how much time that's freed up for you and just emotional energy, knowing that things are getting done without you having to do it.
Yeah.
That's when you start to realize, oh, now I see the power of this. But if you're doing everything yourself and you think you don't have the resources to hire, you're never going to see the power of that.
I've known plenty of people who are terrible at delegating. I'm okay at it. Have you always been good at it, or did you have to learn?
The reason I'm good at it is because I speak a lot about this hedge fund guy that I worked for before I went to law school. And I sat next to him on the trading floor for 4 years. And boy, did I learn a lot. And one of the things that I learned from him was if you bring people on and you hire them to do a certain job, you need to just let them do their job. Right. Stop micromanaging.
That's funny. I was going to ask you about that because micromanaging is definitely a problem for a lot of people, and no one likes to be micromanaged. That's a great way to lose the good employees if you're micromanaging them. But how do you build a team that can handle the tasks efficiently without requiring micromanagement, especially when we're talking these new ways of remote work and hybrid work?
I think a lot of it is just about really setting expectations. There's going to be some people that you're going to hire, and no matter what you tell them and whatever expectations you have, it's just not going to work out. But I think most people, the best way to start off is really having these expectations and saying how this is going to work. I told my assistant when I first hired her, I have nothing to hide. I want you to be able to do your job very well. So I'm giving you free access, to a lot, because I know you're going to need to be able to know a lot about me and my life and my business to do your job. And I got that from the hedge fund guy that I worked for. I needed to have access to everything or else I couldn't do my job. So there's a trust element to it. Finding someone that you trust enough, but understanding they're not going to be able to do their job if you're nitpicking every single thing that they do. And there's no point in even having them if you're going to nitpick everything.
Exactly. That's just, you're not saving yourself any time. Yeah. That's a really good point too about being able to trust, because I feel like a lot of people in business, especially higher ups, keep certain things. A lot of times it's finances and stuff pretty close to the chest, and they don't necessarily want to give that to people, but people can't do their job as well if they don't have all the information. That's a really, really interesting kind of conundrum that people, some business owners, lawyers, or just regular business owners might have.
And it is a conundrum because it used to be, we're all in person. So I've got access to some of the personal information, but it's all kind of sitting here in the office.
Right.
Now it's a little bit harder, and you do have to be very careful about what passwords and things you're sharing with people.
True.
But I think just as a way of thinking about it, I think the best way to think about it is if you can have even just one person on your team that you really trust enough to manage a lot of the things kind of behind the scenes, knowing that means they're going to have to access a lot of what you have access to, but they can't do their job otherwise, right? And then you find the right person and you say, listen, you're going to have access. I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to do your job. And now I'm going to expect that you do your job.
Yes, that's true too. Yeah. You do have to do your job after you get all this access. Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to stop you in any way, but I expect that you're going to get it done.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And that's how this is going to work. And if it doesn't work that way, I will not have any problems bringing in someone who does.
Yep.
This is my business.
Yeah. It seems blunt and obvious, but it's necessary.
Yeah. And some people are going to be great with that. They're going to say, great, I don't want a micromanager, but I know I can do the work. I know I'm going to get it done. This is a great fit. And others, it's not. And then, you just need to find the one that's a good fit.
And in that same kind of vein, how can you ensure you hire the right people that you can grow, that they'll help you grow your practice, especially when working with more flexible systems and automation?
Yeah, I think you don't know right away how someone's going to work out. You do the best that you can, and we teach this in the program, how to hire the right VA and whatnot. But I think just knowing, what you're looking for, setting those expectations, and then seeing how it's working. And if it's not working, if they're making your life harder than easier, because you're worrying and you're stressed, are they doing it right? Whatever the reason. And that's
or you're having to redo stuff.
You're having to redo stuff, or you just don't trust that it's going to be done right. So you're looking at it anyway. It shouldn't be like that. And I'm not saying it's easy to find someone that you trust, but that's not how it's supposed to be. And so, but I think that there's a whole course here that we should be building out for 2HLL just on how to hire and train and how to be that hedge fund manager who everything comes in, you pass it down to someone else because you've got to go do the hedge fund stuff. The lawyer has important work to do. We can't be wasting our time messing with an assistant in a different state that we don't even know is doing his or her job.
Right. How do you prioritize hiring as far as the skills? Do you prioritize someone with experience in estate planning or your specific systems, or do you prioritize other aspects?
So it's going to depend on the job that they're interviewing for. We're really, really picky about hiring who I think are the best people for the role and the best people for our culture. So we're prioritizing people that have a very strong skill set. They have to be able to do the job. So our estate planning and drafting coach is an estate planning attorney. But so we're looking for experience, but I would say even more than that, willingness to learn. And just being smart. You don't have to be super, super smart, but you've got to be smart enough to kind of figure things out on your own. That, even if you don't have a lot of experience in a certain area, if you're smart, you can learn. So it's more the willingness to learn and to be a part of a team and those kinds of things, just like they say in the book.
And what is your process for training and onboarding new staff?
My process is, it just depends on whether I'm hiring for my law practice or whether I'm hiring for 2HLL. You see the need, you know what the need is. You start to think about, who's the best person for this. I think being willing to take decisions quickly. One of our best staff members right now, Lainey, we scooped her up the minute she was available. You've got to be willing to make decisions quickly, I think, when they become available. But bringing someone on, it's a matter of setting up SOPs, having, that's a big one, having everything written down the way that things are supposed to happen, having, processes like that in place and having them all documented so the next person that comes in, everything is all set up for them. But yeah, that's kind of my process. We don't have a super formal process right now because our team is actually pretty small. So we've only got about 5 or 6 people on our team.
And for any lawyers that might be listening who are, considering hiring their first support staff, what would be your piece of advice on where they should start out?
Yeah, so the question that I usually see is, we're getting busy. Should I hire another attorney, or should I hire a paralegal, or should I hire an assistant, not knowing what that next step is. And I think a lot of that is just going to depend on what kind of a law firm you want to have. Do you need to bring in another attorney, or is a lot of the work that can that actually be done by a paralegal? And a lot of it can be done by a paralegal. So, knowing who to hire, who's the best person for that job based on the skill sets, and then just knowing how that all sort of combines with the kind of practice that you want to have.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. I mean, it really depends on what what your goals are for that person, what you intend to give them as work, and then kind of narrow it down to a position from there.
Yeah. And we find people all over. Like you asked what our process was. We find people on Upwork. We find people through, lawyers in the community who've got a good network of paralegals and things like that. The best advice I can give to lawyers that are sitting here thinking, I know I need to hire someone, but I don't know where to start on Upwork with a virtual assistant 5 hours a week, and then just start passing off something really simple like social media posts or something like that. Yeah. And then just start to feel how it feels when someone else is helping you and you can see that they're doing good work. And that's 5 hours back from your week that you've gotten. And then I think what's going to happen is you're going to start to see, well, what else can they help me with? What else are they good at? And then you'll give as much as you can to that person, and then eventually other needs will come up and you'll have to start, filling those needs.
Yeah, I've spent much time on Upwork, so I can attest that it is a good platform. It is a good way to connect with people for sure on both sides.
It's a good way to find people. And again, just know this takes iteration. I think it was my 3rd or 4th assistant was the one that stuck.
Yeah. Yep. Don't always get it right the first time, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Legal Pad with attorney Laura Cowan. To connect with Laura, head to www.2hourlifestylelawyer.com, or you can email her at laura@2hourlifestylelawyer.com. That 2 is the digit as well. Please like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review in the comments. Laura, so great to talk with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.